Thank you, Dr. Rai. When Rajan introduced me, he said I'm an IT guru, and I categorically deny that. It's not true. One of the things we say on the internet, don't believe everything you read or hear on the internet. And very much like that in a similar way, don't believe everything you hear about me. But I am Punjabi, that's for sure. And still an Indian at heart. So I'm not going to, I don't consider myself an expert in child protection or cyber security or any such thing. What I will here. However, in terms of challenges, cyber safety is one challenge, and many a times it brings about an emotional response because of the things that exist, things that happen, things that you hear about, that you see perhaps, or others tell you about. So it becomes very emotional. Oh, that should have happened. That's beyond moral, beyond morality, beyond everything, beyond anything, really. But the question I ask is, how different is it from challenges in the real world? In most instances, online challenges are an extension of the offline or the real world. I mean, let's be absolutely clear about that. Because a lot of the things that exist online also exist in the real world. The only difference is that technology is a vehicle here. Now, if we look at most young people who are connected, there is no real difference in interactive technologies to see and do things. And in most instances, they are online nearly 24/7. They go to bed. Before going to bed, they are online. In bed, they're probably texting away or talking to friends. And during the course of the day, they'll do all sorts of things using the internet or their mobile phones. So the question is, so what's different about being online? In 1993, this little cartoon was published in the New Yorker. Perhaps some of you may have seen it. But this was 16 years ago, and I don't think things are any different today. Perhaps it's even more so. Now, if we look at the traditional sense of bullying, safety, abuse, and so on, how does it compare to the online world? Face-to-face feedback. We don't have the social interaction that happens with that. You don't see the facial expressions. I'm talking to you, I'm gesturing, I'm looking left, right, and center. That doesn't happen online. You are glued to a computer screen, probably instant messaging, maybe video, but not so much video, it's more text messaging. Instant messaging perhaps is the greatest use of how this interaction happens. Tonal expressions, I can vary my voice. That doesn't happen online because it's just text you're typing away. Body language doesn't exist. And of course, yes, there are emoticons that you can use, a smiley face, a happy face, a sad face, and so on and so forth. But do they really portray or relay what you're actually trying to say? A lot of times they get lost in translation. And sometimes if you put the wrong emoticon at the end of a sentence, you may actually upset someone. Even though you put a wink or a smiley face or something, but they may interpret it completely differently. They are perhaps a bit more naive. Maybe too strong a word, but maybe it's an appropriate word, I don't know. The disclosure of personal information becomes rather easy for them. They are usually more trusting. A child is more trusting than perhaps a mature adult would be, or an adult. Taboo topics are much easier to discuss. Now, if you talk with a child face to face and you start talking about, for example, sex, that child may shy away, it may react differently. But once you take the face-to-face contact out of the equation, and you're talking sitting on a machine, online, the child doesn't know who you are, whether you're 50 years old or you're 14 years old. The child doesn't know that. And in that manner, children can be exploited, and I guess that's one of the issues. So it's an issue of things that a child would disclose, would want to discuss online, perhaps much easier than they would do in front of a real person. The other thing, of course, is, as I said, the child could be 15 and the person they're talking to could be 50. The child doesn't know that. I can claim to be a female wearing a skirt with blonde hair. Yeah, okay. Okay, I'm bald, so maybe blonde hair is a long shot, but anyway. But the thing is, all are equal. They could be Dr. Rai at one end, and they could be Gitanjali at the other end, and they could claim to be each other. How would you know that? So there's that issue that it takes away all these barriers that exist. Now, just to give you some statistics, again, this is from the Pew Internet American Life Survey. If you go to pewinternet.org, they've got a lot of interesting information. It is American-based, so these are American statistics, but I think it gives us some idea of what's out there and what's happening. In the Indian context, perhaps some things will be a bit different. But let's just look at it from the point of view that it's a question to an audience which is not technically inclined or uses internet for their day-to-day work. The answer has been 2 or 3 times a week, generally speaking, for your average person. But 2/3 of all children go online every day. That's 3 times more than adulthood. So, in some ways, that's an alarming statistics, because that means they have much, much more knowledge about the internet than an adulthood. That's when they check the mail, first of the month or the last of the month, because it's not really their thing. But their kids are probably checking it every 2 or 3 hours. What are teens doing online? 94% go online to do research for school assignments, 48% do so on a typical day. So nearly half every day for school assignments. So the internet is used for learning, education, collaboration. 81% go to websites about movies, TV shows, music groups, or sports stars. That should be a no-brainer. 77% go online to get news, which is also quite interesting. That means kids want to know what's happening in the world. Be it perhaps in a particular focus area, but they still want to know what's happening. On a video sharing site like YouTube or Google Video. How many of you have gone to YouTube to watch a video in its entirety? And the second question, how many of you do it on a regular basis? So the first question would be, yes, I do that. But the second question would be, there'll be less sense going on. I won't go into it any further, but it's just a statement saying that there are also sites which stream pornography on the internet for free, as Google Video or YouTube does. 55% go online to get information about a college, university, or other school that they are thinking about attending. That's good. 38% have bought something online like books, clothes, or music. Interesting statistic, but at the same time, from my perspective, a bit alarming. So that means kids are now doing e-commerce transactions online. Do they understand? He's trying to get an ID so I can get into a club or something, or I can go to a bar. Not necessarily for the sake of drinking, but just to have been there. So I remember when I was much younger, that there used to be these ads that used to run in magazines, which promised me a valid, genuine ID which I can use to do whatever, to prove I'm over 18, or even though I'm 18, 14, 15, or 16. Now, if you do a search on the internet, there are a lot of sites like that. So you have kids who are getting duped, because those IDs are just a piece of paper. No one is going to accept that form of identification. Okay. So again, it's easier to fool a kid in that scenario than it is perhaps to an adult, but adults do the same thing too. So anyway, 28% have looked online for health, dieting, or physical fitness information. Again, something I found interesting. Over a quarter are into health issues. 18+. 38% of teens send text messages daily. And from what I've observed within my family and friends, that 38%, although it says that text messages daily, but it's not just one message they send. You know, I've seen my nieces and nephews and cousins and whatnot sit and hammer away at their phone for half the day. They are out somewhere with us on an outing, on a picnic or something, they're on the phone, texting away. And one particular nephew of mine, his father told me that his mobile phone bill is more than the phone and text. And he said, in the particular region he lives, the phone bill he gets, it gives you the voice units that have been used, and it actually lists every text message that was sent from the phone. That's how the billing system is there. So he said, I usually have a 40, 35-page bill for my son, and I have a 1-page bill for me. And that 31 pages is full of all the text messages that he has sent. So he said, you know, okay, if I wanted to police it, yes, I could sit down and try and work out which number he's texting to. But he said most of them are repetitions, so it's probably a circle of friends at school or whatnot. But again, an interesting thing. And he said, the plan we are on, I can't get a plan which makes it any cheaper because he texts so much. So, 2/3 of teens use an online social network site. I guess in India, I believe Orkut is quite popular. In other parts of Asia, Facebook, Hi5, and so on. 43% send messages through social networks daily. 77% of teens have a gaming console, and 55% of teens have a portable gaming device. That means they can connect with the gaming device, they can interact. Now, this is also quite interesting, and I'm not quite sure how big gaming or interactive gaming is in India, and I'm assuming it is, particularly in the metros. gaming itself is very interesting technology. I mean, a lot of the advances we have in technology today actually come out of the gaming industry. In terms of video conferencing, text messaging, instant messaging. And if you go to some of these really, what I would say, complicated in the sense of technology, gaming systems, you can be playing a game, a role-playing game, so you can be in a team of 5, let's say, going after a target. You can have headsets that will talk as if you were doing the real thing. So if you've been in the army, you go out on a recon mission, you can talk to your counterpart during the mission. You can exchange information, you can exchange text messaging, you can exchange information like how much ammunition I have and so on and so forth. And that's very interesting because that's an incredible use of technology. And I said in the army for a while, it's actually free. You go log on, register your name, and you have a basic set of access to this simulation systems or game systems. Very interesting. Online harassment. And I guess this is getting to the nitty-gritty now. 1/3 roughly have said that they've experienced one of the following forms of online harassment. 15% say they have private material forwarded without permission, so it be it instant messaging, text, or email. 13% have received threatening messages. 13% said someone had spread a rumor about them online. There's no question of permission, it shouldn't happen in the first place. So some parting thoughts. As I said earlier, technology is just a vehicle. Bullying is bullying, any way you look at it. Abuse is abuse, any way you look at it. So some people say we need specific legislation to address cyber bullying and cyber abuse, but you already have the legislation. It's probably under the criminal act somewhere in your legal system. So, I mean, from my point of view, and these are personal perspectives, these are not internet society perspectives, that from my point of view, bullying is bullying, abuse is abuse, and we already have a set of laws and regulations which control that. And I think it's just a matter of trying to figure out how do we actually take it on and how do we tackle it and how do we address it. There's a need for adults to better relate and understand child's online behavior. As I said earlier, kids are going much more online than adults are. And I have friends who come to me for advice saying, hey, you into ICT, tell me, I've got this kid who's on the computer 24/7. Should I be worried? I said, well, I think so. That's a pretty silly question for you to ask me. I said, you know what, you should really do, and he said, okay, I'll block his internet access. That won't solve the problem. He will find another way to get around it. He'll go to a friend's place, he'll go to a net cafe. Look, you can't stop him or her from doing that. So I said, it's important for you to start understanding what your child does online. And you don't have to be dictatorial about it. Now, the internet provides great opportunities for learning, collaboration, communication, advocacy, building focus groups, and so on and so forth. At the same time, there's an issue of disclosure of personal information, and it's not just about kids, it's about us as adults as well. What we do online affects where we end up online. Now, from my perspective, ultimately, education and understanding what's out there is the key. I don't think there is a one-or fix-all template that you can put on this and say, yeah, problem's fixed, let's go do something else now. And I think it goes down to educating kids. You've got to start really early. It should be part of school curriculum, what internet safety is. In some economies around the world, New Zealand is one, there is a concerted effort to include cyber safety as part of the school curriculum. And it doesn't start when the child hits high school, it starts at the primary school level, which means grade 2, 3, 4, the lower levels. And the other thing is that you shouldn't just do it, let's say, do it in grade 3, grade 4. That child at that moment of time will have a different understanding of what the internet is, what he or she can do on the internet and things. So it has to be progressive. Just like you start learning basic maths and you go to more advanced maths as you progress in your school years. In a very similar vein, I think, from my personal perspective, the internet, best practice guides, using the internet safely needs to also have a phased approach, very similar to that. The last thing I'd like to say is this. Let's assume you have a 3 or 4 year old child. Let's also assume you've done well in life and you have a swimming pool at home. Sooner or later, that kid will try and take a dive into the swimming pool. Right? Because curiosity gets the better out of it. So the question I put forward to you is this. Do you build a fence around that swimming pool? Or do you teach the kid how to swim? Do that? Thank you.